Okay, today we are going to learn how to create our mallet head, and the first thing you want to do is make sure you have your instructions open and ready to go. So let's look through it together. It says that the mallet head must be 1 3/4 inch in diameter with a radius of 7/8 of an inch, and it is 3 inches tall. So our instructions say that you want to open a new part file, and then you want to sketch a profile of 1/2 of the mallet head. And what we're going to do is revolve this profile in order to create a full image of the mallet head. So the first thing you want to do is make sure you have your Inventor program open, and once in there we're going to go to New, and we are going to create a new standard part. Once we're there, we want to create a new sketch, and we want to choose our normal plane that we always choose in class. I'm going to go ahead and maximize it. So the mallet head has a radius of 7/8 of an inch and is 3 inches tall. So let's go back to the program. And I think it's easiest to just do a rectangle. And I'm going to click, I'm going to drag it up, and I'm going to go ahead and put 7/8. And then if I do the tab key, it'll take me over to the height. And I'm going to click on 3. And you can see I have the beginning half of my mallet head. So then I'm going to go back to the instructions, and you can see we have to add some half of a hole to the side of the mallet head. And the way we do that is we go back to our sketch, and we are going to create a circle, and we are going to trim it up. So as you see here in the instructions, the radius, which is marked as fx, is 0.1. Now when we draw circles in Inventor, it does the whole diameter. So in this situation we need to multiply the radius of 0.1 by 2, and we get 0.2. So I'm going to go back to the program, and I go up here and I'm going to click circle, and I'm just going to guesstimate where the hole should be. I'm going to click on it, and we're going to go 0.2, enter. And down here, I'm going to make another one and do 0.2 and enter. Now let's go back to our instructions and see where these circles need to be placed. And it looks like down here they are 0.5 from the bottom edge of the mallet to the center of the circle, and the top one is also 0.5 from the top edge down to the center of the circle. So I'm going to go back and I'm going to dimension the two holes that I drew by clicking the center of the hole, or the circle, and the top edge. Come out a little bit, and this should be 0.5. And we'll do the same thing to the bottom one. Now, one step it doesn't cover very clearly in the instructions is trimming the circles. So right now we have a full circle, and we only want half a circle to show up before we revolve the whole sketch. So I'm going to go back, and there's a trim tool up top that we haven't used much to this point. It's right here in the modify section. So you click trim, and you take your little scissors. You're going to trim that half of the circle off, and we're going to trim the center of the circle, so we just have half of the circle left. And I'm going to scroll out a little bit and do the same thing to the bottom circle. And we have half of our mallet head sketched now. Let's go back to the instructions and see what we're supposed to do. It says dimension and finish the sketch and switch to the home view. So I have fully dimensioned my sketch, so I'm going to go back and I'm going to click on finish sketch and go to home view, and it should look about right. Let's look at the instructions, and mine matches. All my measurements and dimensions are in there. Actually, looks like I missed 0.875. That's right. That is the same as 7/8. So we are good to go. Now, it says right here, from the Create panel, select Revolve, and use the Revolve pop-up screen to create the revolution. And here's our revolve pop-up screen. So let's go back and we will click revolve. Our pop-up screen comes up. Now what we want to do here is click on the axis, which is going to be the center of our mallet head. And I will click right here. And we want to do a full revolution. And you can see what that does to our sketch, and we will click OK. And our mallet head is nearing completion. So let's go back to the instructions and check out what's next. Now it wants us to place a chamfer on each end to give the mallet its characteristic look, which is kind of a rounded edge head. So it is a 1/16 of an inch chamfer on each end. So we'll go back here, and up at the top we see chamfer. I'm going to pull my instructions over, and I want to put one on the very top, so you notice it turns red when I find the one I want. And I want to put another one on the very bottom. I will click there, and it said 1/16 of an inch, so I'm going to do 1/16, and I'm going to apply it and close that, and now you can see our chamfer is on the mallet head. And it's starting to take shape now, and there it is. Okay, so now we're going to put our hole in the side of the mallet head so our handle can be inserted into it. And the instructions are right here. We have to create a work plane on the YZ plane and tangent to the circumference of the mallet head. And here's the directions. Number 1, from the Work Features panel, select Plane. So let's go back to our instructions. And up here in the Work Features panel, you will see Plane. So I'm going to click on Plane. And in the model browser, I'm going to find and expand the origin folder, and then I'm going to left click on the YZ plane. So I already opened up my origin folder, but here it is right here if yours isn't open yet. And I'm going to left click on the YZ plane. And then my plane has shown up, but I don't want to draw on the center of the mallet head. I want to draw on this outside edge because I want to put a hole there to put in my handle for my mallet. So let's look at the instructions. In the model browser, find and expand the origin folder, and then left click on the YZ plane. I just did that. I'm going to click on the circumference of the mallet head so the work plane will be made tangent. And there we go. There's my work plane. So back to the instructions. Place a sketch plane on the work plane you just created. Click on the edge of the work plane to place the sketch. So I'm going to create a new sketch, and I'm going to click on the edge of this work plane. And it's going to flip it on its side so I can start sketching on it. It says left click on the right side of the view cube. You don't have to do that because mine automatically flipped it to its right side. So we are good to go for that. Finally, project geometry, the height and the width edges of the mallet head details onto the sketch plane. So back here you'll see project geometry, and I want the height and the width. And you see they turn green, so I can put measurements on those. There we are. Number 7, from the Draw panel, select Point. Place and locate the point in the middle of the mallet. Dimension the point from the projected edges so it is centered on the mallet. So I'm going to go back and I'm going to select the Point tool. I'm going to come down here and I'm going to place a point where I think is in the middle of the mallet head. But just to be sure, it's always safe to dimension it. So from here to here, it should be 0.875, and mine is. And from the point to the outside edge should be 1.5, and mine is 1.5. So my point is perfectly centered on the mallet head. Step number 8. Use the hole from the Modify panel to create a drilled and tapped hole feature. And here are all of the instructions for that hole. So I'm going to go back and I'm going to finish my sketch because I placed my point. And I'm going to click the hole feature. And it automatically puts that hole right where I placed that point. And I have some work to do here to adjust the hole so it matches the instructions. We are going to change the drill type down here so that it has threads. That's going to be your first step. You'll see some of our options have changed since I clicked on the thread type. We want our hole to be 0.875 inches deep. And we want the threads to run for 0.625 inches deep, so not the entire hole. We're good so far. The thread type is the ANSI unified screw threads, and the size is 0.625. I'm already on the ANSI unified screw threads. We need to change this to the 0.625 though. And there we are. 5/8 to 11 UNC and class is 2B. 5/8 to 11 UNC and class 2B. And I think when looking at everything, we are complete and ready to complete the hole feature. Okay, the last thing I'm going to do is get rid of my work plane because I don't like looking at it. So if you go over here to your browser on the left hand side, you can right click and you can see there's visibility, and you can left click on it and that visibility will be gone, and then you are done and everything looks pretty good. I do have this plane here in the middle. That I do not want to see either. And there we go, I right clicked on it, clicked visibility. And there you go, there's your mallet head. Easy enough. Make sure you save it, guys. Always save it to your O drive, and if you want to change the color of it, I know a lot of you like to do that, I do as well. I'm going to go ahead and make mine, let's just go for some type of wood, perhaps. There's some birch wood. That looks good. So don't forget to save it into your O drive file. Save as. My O drive already popped up. I'm in my pegboard toy. I'm going to name it the correct part, which is Mallet Head. Save it. We are all done.